Good Tuesday morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our Benefit Specialist video conference. Today we have a full schedule for you, so we have a lot of really great things to share. We do have a presentation on sensible nutrition. Also, we will be introducing our new Power Program Manager, which is very exciting. We also have a little bit on the fraud and recovery reorganization and how that's going to be changing up. We also have some information on how QC reviews are pulled and processed. And then we have a couple trainings for you on expedites and notices. So stick with us. There's going to be a lot of great stuff coming your way this morning. Before we get started with all of that, I do want to just send out another plug for the combined manual trainings that are coming up. I do have a couple scheduled. We're going to be going through using the combined manual, some little tips and tricks for that, how to really search and find the information that you're looking for. And just really, it's such a great tool. We really want everyone to kind of be comfortable with it and be able just to jump in there and use it every day, all day long. So I have a training this afternoon at 1 o'clock on that. I also have another one scheduled tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. and then another one on April 25th at 9. We have room in all three for at least a few people. The April 25th one, I have plenty of spots left if you're interested. If none of those dates work for you, let me know because I will definitely work with you. We'll get something else scheduled. I want to make sure that everyone has access to this for sure. So keep that in mind. Send me an email. Let me know if you'd like to join in on one of those combined manual trainings. Also, I just want to give some positive feedback. We had a trends and training meeting yesterday, and Darlene had mentioned some positive trends that she's seeing across the state. So I just want to let you know, we are seeing that workers are questioning and they're documenting deposits that are in the bank statements, which is something that we've talked quite a bit about lately. So thank you for that. That's fantastic. We're also seeing an increase in collateral contact and documenting that collateral contact very well within the narrative, which is fantastic. For the power programs, we're seeing that you are verifying and documenting relationships in the caretaker relative cases. You know, that documentation is so key. So it's great that we're really moving in the right direction with that. We're also seeing that cooperation with Department of Workforce Services and child support at the recertifications are being documented for power. And all of that power paperwork is being completed for all of the mandatory individuals in the cases. So I just wanted to pass that on to you, say thank you. That's fantastic. I love that we're working on those things and we're really moving in the right direction with them. So you guys rock. With that, if you have any questions during any of the presentations, send me an instant message and we will get those answered for you. If it isn't something that I can answer kind of on the fly, I'll get it figured out and I will send that out to you after we're all done with the conference. As always, this is recorded, so if you do have an interruption, you can pause the recording, go ahead and take care of what you need to take care of, come back, and you won't miss anything. And then supervisors, if you have anyone that is not available to attend this morning, that recording is there to make sure that they can watch this at a later time. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Mindy Muley and Kaylee McCracken-Goodenough. They're from the Sensible Nutrition Program. Welcome.
Thanks. Good morning. Well, as Valerie said, my name is Mindy Miley, and I'm going to kind of give you a brief overview of the Sensible Nutrition Program, and then I'll have Kaylee kind of walk you through an internal campaign that we've worked with Mary Ann on to kind of help increase awareness of SNAP and SNAP-Ed. As you know, I think you're all familiar with the Sensible Nutrition Program. The reason our program is an umbrella program, and so we have the Expanded Food Nutrition Education Program under us, and then also SNAP-Ed. And both programs are targeted to the low-income audience. And we've really, in Wyoming, it's called the Sensible Nutrition Program. Nationwide, SNAP-Ed can have a lot of different names, but we really are trying to brand it more as SNAP-Ed because we are the educational arm of SNAP funding. We do get our funding through SNAP, through the Farm Bill, and so the majority of our funding throughout the state comes through SNAP Ed. And really the purpose is to increase the likelihood of people that receive SNAP benefits receive good nutrition, education, healthier diets, and increase access to food. We traditionally have been a direct education program where we do one-on-one education in groups, a lot of hands-on teaching of cooking skills, shopping, food safety, food preparation. And we've really tried to expand our reach a little bit into more community interventions and doing what we call policy systems environmental changes to help increase access to healthier foods for the low-income audience and the SNAP audience. We do have an educator that covers all counties. We are located in extension offices throughout Wyoming. And we do have several educators in Natrona County and Laramie County and the Indian Reservation. So we have a broad coverage, and we may not be located in every county, but we have someone who covers that county. As far as referrals from the SNAP audience, we really appreciate being included on the SNAP application. And this has really helped us identify those SNAP recipients and be able to reach that audience. However, many times people that fill out the SNAP application don't realize when they're filling out the Sensible Nutrition form that they are looking at classes. It is a series of classes. We usually try to get them in for at least 6 classes so that we can really see a difference in their behavior change as far as selecting healthy behaviors, nutrition, and like I said, food safety, physical activity, to really change those behaviors. And we've seen that multiple lessons help make a difference in that behavior change. So when they do sign up and we call them for classes, they are making a commitment to come. And so we found that a lot of them don't realize the connection between SNAP and SNAP Ed. So that's really why we came up with this campaign and working with Mary Ann to kind of help bridge that gap. So if you don't have any questions for me, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Kaylee and let her explain a little bit about our plan for the campaign to kind of help improve the communication.
Great. So like Mary said, we have been working with Mary Ann on this campaign. And the ultimate goal is to improve our communication between SNAP and SNAP Ed so that we're working together better to serve the audience in Wyoming that we work with. So a couple weeks ago, I asked Mary Ann to send out a link for a survey, and I had 62 people respond to that survey, which I really appreciate. It was super helpful to just kind of understand where our gaps in communication are. So one of the things that really stood out to me on that survey is that across the state, everyone seems to understand and know the Sensible Nutrition program, but didn't necessarily understand SNAP Ed. And so just to kind of emphasize that the Sensible Nutrition program is SNAP Ed. So if you're working with Sensible Nutrition in your county, you're working with SNAP Ed. So and our educators are going to be working in their local communities to kind of promote that a little bit more, so that connection is made between the two, that it's the same thing. Another thing that stood out from the survey is that the referrals are not regularly happening. And sometimes it seems like maybe that's because the referrals forms never go back with the application. They're taken in at the front desk. So there's some disconnect there between, I guess, in the referral process. And we've talked with our educators about some strategies for making that referral process easier. And then the last thing that really stood out to me on this survey is that our educators are telling me that they're going into the office at least once a month, if not more often. But the benefit specialists said that they weren't seeing our educators in the office that frequently. So it seems like there's a little bit of a disconnect about when our educators are going in and that they're not always meeting with the benefit specialists. So we've talked with our educators a little bit about, how to address that and making a point to meet with benefit specialists more often. And that was some of the requests. There was an open question on the survey about how the referral process could be made easier. And several people said more communication from Sensible Nutrition / SNAP-Ed, more direct communication and interaction. So working together, meeting more often in person, that sort of thing. Doing joint events such as health fairs. Several people asked for more specific information about SNAP-Ed, and that's part of what this campaign is going to do is it takes what SNAP is doing and it links it to what SNAP-Ed does to support SNAP in the state. So kind of moving into talking about the campaign, the goal is to connect SNAP and SNAP-Ed both for the benefit specialists and for our educators, but also for participants for our program. We want people who are signing up for SNAP to understand that SNAP-Ed is there to support them and to help them use those resources better. So I have designed 3 different materials. One is a poster that will be hung in public places in both DFS offices and in extension offices where SNAP-Ed educators are housed. One is kind of like a postcard designed for desks for both benefit specialists and our educators to remind them of the campaign and to keep our relationship kind of on the forefront of our minds so that we're working together and remembering to communicate better with each other. And then the last is a double-sided postcard, and it's designed for SNAP recipients. And the postcard has one side is 5 benefits of SNAP, and the other side is 5 benefits of SNAP-Ed. And it's the same sort of messaging as the other 2, but it's just been tweaked a little bit to address that specific audience. And I will show you those really fast. Okay. So this is the poster. Our SNAP-Ed educators will be bringing these into DFS offices across the state. And they're designed to be hung in lobbies, like waiting areas and in hallways where everyone can see them regularly. This is the card for desks, just as kind of a personal reminder for all of us to be working together more effectively and to be communicating with each other. Maybe what's working in one office may not be working in another office, and so to work together to develop strategies to work better together to serve our audience. And the last one is this postcard. So there's the SNAP side and the SNAP-Ed side. You'll notice on the bottom, there's a pretty big empty space. And this is so that you can print your contact information onto labels and stick it on there. And it can go out with SNAP recipients so that they always have your information, and our educators will be doing the same thing so that their information is on there, and it's a resource for SNAP recipients to encourage them to use both of these programs and to use them together. Okay, let's see. So besides these 3 things, the other part that comes with this campaign is our referral form. We've had one on the SNAP application for over a year now.
So it's been several years.
And I'm going to be updating that referral form to match this campaign so that visually and in terms of the messaging, it looks the same so that SNAP recipients are seeing the same message in several places and it doesn't seem like a different program. It seems more cohesive. The other thing that I'm going to be doing is on the DFS webpage for the state, there is a page about Sensible Nutrition, and I'm going to be updating that to have the same messaging and the same look as this campaign. So again, that it's a resource for people and it's kind of connecting the dots in various places. I'll also be designing a similar page on our Sensible Nutrition Program webpage or website So that information is available there as well. And then the last thing, we just had our annual meeting with our educators, and I mentioned to them that if they haven't done demonstrations or lessons with their DFS office recently, that they should please do so, and that if your office is interested, to let your educator know.
And we just had training. We have revised our adult curriculum and updated it, and so it's kind of a new, fresher curriculum, and we've really tried to include some of the messaging consistent with SNAP regarding menu planning and then budgeting, and really trying to help with self-sufficiency and planning a budget so that people can make their SNAP benefits and their food dollar go farther. So we're really trying to integrate what SNAP's goals are in with the SNAP Ed goals also.
Mm-hmm. So that's all of our educators will be piloting and teaching this new curriculum this summer. So if your office wants to know more and is interested, do get in touch with your educator. I know that they're going to be doing the same to give you all of the materials for the campaign. So that's kind of where we're headed right now. In the fall, we'll do this same survey again, and just kind of see how that is going, to see if our efforts have been effective in terms of bridging gaps. And then we can kind of go from there and decide what steps are necessary. If you don't know who your CMP or SNAP Ed educator is, or just are generally unsure, don't hesitate to contact us. Where our website is just uwyo.edu/CNP, and all of our contact information is on there. I can also send out our contact list with all of our educators and which county they cover, so that you would have their direct contact information. So I think that kind of wraps up the campaign, and the last part was just farmers markets.
I did, and I guess I wanted to clarify. I said one-on-one education when really I meant face-to-face education. And so if there's any way we can partner to get groups together or help with any of your training of SNAP recipients, if we can partner, that would be great. We also wanted to remind everyone that several of the farmers markets, there's 11 in Wyoming that do accept SNAP benefits, and that we're really working with farmers markets to encourage the low-income audience to attend farmers market and make food accessible through farmers markets. So that is something that we just wanted to kind of remind everyone about. And this summer we'll have some farmers market brochures that could go out to SNAP recipients also. Just encouraging them to use the farmers markets. So I don't know if anyone's able to ask questions or if anyone has any questions, but we really appreciate this opportunity to speak with you guys and to strengthen our partnership. Well, everyone, have a great rest of your week. Thank you for letting us be on.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys. It looks like our moderator has frozen a little bit, so we'll hang on just a minute and see if she makes it back. Maybe she might just be a minute, so can we just keep moving and turn the time over to Corinne?
That is a great idea, Kelly. Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
I'm glad I'm not frozen because, you know, I would be making the worst faces. So good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. And I just wanted to take a quick minute to introduce you all to our new Power Program Manager. She's actually not new at all. Most of you probably have had some experience with her. So Georgia Auk started officially last week. She did come to us from the Department of Workforce Services. She did the Power Work program over there. So the majority of us have had the pleasure of working with her there. Some of the newer people maybe haven't had the opportunity to meet Georgia. So I just wanted to let you see her beautiful face. She gets to maybe say hello, and then we will move on to Michelle Rossetti. So Georgia, do you want to say hi to everybody, please?
Good morning. Yes. And I just wanted to say thank you to everyone for all the very nice emails that you all sent and the very warm welcome. It's really good to be back with DFS. Some big shoes to fill, but I promise to do my best.
Thanks, Georgia. Hey, Kelly, do you want us to just move on?
Yeah, so I think just so you guys know, Val just sent me an instant message. She's trying to get back on, so she's going to log off and go back on. Hopefully that doesn't cause a hitch with our broadcast. If it does, we'll just chalk it up to a Tuesday morning and we'll get back on. But yes, let's just keep moving right down the agenda. So Michelle, were you able to make it on okay?
I think I have. Can you hear me?
Oh, let's see. Yep, we can hear you just fine. I'll just turn the time over to you.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I hope you've had a chance to review the attachments that Valerie sent out yesterday. And if you've had a chance to look at those maps, you can see that the Fraud and Recovery Unit is basically realigning some of our primary duties. We've had some staffing changes of late, so that's how this kind of came about. But it made us really rethink how we can accomplish our unit's mission statement. So we've had several meetings, lots of discussions about how could we do things differently? How could we focus on each of our strengths? Because, you know, we all tend to like to do certain things more so than others, and maybe we could tap into that. So hopefully that's going to lead us into being able to be more efficient and still perform our job duties with fewer resources. So we all came together, we came up with a game plan, and I'm going to share that with you today. We're pretty excited about these changes. Who knows where they may lead? That's always exciting, and you know, we're going to have some hiccups from time to time, but we're going to work through that. I know there's a lot of people out there that I haven't met before. But if you haven't heard me say it before, I just want to tell you that I believe that all of us are in this boat. And what I mean by that is that we're all stewards of taxpayer dollars, right? We all have different jobs, but we're all in the same boat. So we can't all be the captain. And hopefully it doesn't take all of us to row this boat. And, you know, I think all of us would want to be the cruise director, but we can only have one of those. But anyway, I'm just trying to make a little bit of light to the important jobs that we do. Most of you out there in TV land are issuing benefits to our vulnerable citizens. But if those benefits aren't issued correctly, it could be our fault, or maybe it's the fault of the applicant. But it's our job in the Fraud and Recovery Unit to try to get those taxpayer dollars back. That can happen lots of different ways. I don't know if you all know the different ways that we can do that. But typically we can recoup, or we can contact individuals and say, gosh, could you spare a few dollars and help us get these monies back? It might happen through the Treasury Offset Program with SNAP dollars. And then, you know, there's always the bad apples, so to speak, and a few individuals are referred to a prosecutor, and then the restitution is the overpayment, and we want that to be ordered, the individual ordered to repay that, and then we attempt to collect that. So in a nutshell, the Fraud and Recovery Unit is basically the enforcer of the regulations and the policy that govern our public assistance programs. So, okay, I've talked about realignment or reorganization. What does that mean to all of you? What does that mean to us? What does it look like? So there are two basic activities that the Fraud and Recovery Unit conducts. The first thing is recovery. So on its face, recovery means to recover misspent taxpayer dollars. So in practice, how does that occur? First, and probably most often, it's you as eligibility workers that you've discovered that benefits weren't issued appropriately. How does that happen? Sometimes you discover it, sometimes QC discovers it in one of their reviews. And in case you didn't know, they are mandated to send those files in for potential overpayments when they discover that an error was made in the calculating of benefits. Another way it can happen is that the client inadvertently forgot to tell us about something that's pretty important. And then again, we have those folks that really are trying to deceive us by not reporting something or reporting something that's not accurate. And then those are the ones that are the recovery cases. So what's your next step when you discover that? You fill out that wonderful DFS 709 and you send the file to Cheyenne. And sometimes we have other verifications that we need to get. So we try to get those, and then we send those files on to Kimberly and Shauna. They review all the information together with the new information, and then they plug that into EPICS, and eligibility is recalculated, and then an overpayment's established. And so then the final step would be for my unit, my staff, to try to get those dollars back. So with the new alignment, that process itself is not going to change. So when you believe that an overpayment's occurred, continue to send your file to Cheyenne. We'll process this as we've done in the past. However, if you've got questions about overpayments, take a look at the map, see where your office is located. We have two experts that are going to take this on, and that's Alyssa Martin and Marcia Keeley. So anytime you have a question about an overpayment, or if a recipient that's incurred an overpayment has a question about their overpayment, they need to get in touch with either Alyssa or Marcia. And those maps that Valerie provided have their contact information. You can email them, you know how to reach them through Gmail. But I'd also like you to take those maps and maybe give them to the folks at the front desk, or anybody else in your office that you think might have to field questions about overpayments. That way, whoever needs to make contact with Alyssa or Marcia is going to have the, call once and you get a warm body to answer your question, and they don't have to go through a lot of different people. So we're going to be, from now until the end of the month, Kathy and Dawn's recovery caseload is being transferred and then transported here to Cheyenne. I may meet up with them somewhere, or, but anyway, the logistics, I guess, isn't that important, but so that May 1st is when we want to be up and running with that particular process. So then the second part of our realignment is in the investigation of public assistance allegations. You know what that looks like. Those calls come from all over. A good bit of our referrals actually come from you guys, and we get a lot from the general public. They call, they send letters, sometimes to the governor. But that whole process is going to change just a little bit, and I'm going to need your help because Kathy and Dawn are going to split the state, as you can see in the map. They're going to focus their efforts and their energies on investigations. They will be the primary investigator that's going to handle disqualifications as well. So when you think an investigation is warranted and you need to fill out that 719, the DFS 719, please give a call or set up an appointment to webcam with Dawn and Kathy. What we want to do to help streamline this process is talk to them about what you're seeing. What are the case circumstances that you are seeing that's making you kind of scratch your head and wonder if it's really true or not? You guys are our eyes and our ears. You know, when we get a file, all we have is paper. And we really can't get a sense of, or a complete sense of what's really going on with that household. So we're going to ask you to call them first before you send in the file. I think that's going to make us more efficient as well. And what we get will really, really be good information. You know, I think sometimes we forget that if we're going to point the finger at somebody misbehaving or behaving badly, we need to be able to back it up. And how are we going to do that? We've got to prove what we believe is true. So anyway, I think these discussions with Kathy and Dawn are really going to help us streamline the process so that they can focus on really solid information. If they give you the thumbs up, then go ahead and send in the file. And then we're going to be doing some other things here in Cheyenne that's going to help us really hone in on the extra good stuff so that we can ferret that information out to Kathy and Dawn, and they'll be able to take the case and go from there. So actually that process, instead of May 1st, we can start that tomorrow. So take a look at your map, see who your investigative investigator is, and move forward. We're anxious to get started with this new process. And so please remember, anytime you have a question, whether it's an overpayment or an investigation, give us a call. This is what we love to do. And sometimes there's really some gray areas between, well, do I send in the file with a 709 as an overpayment, or do I send it in with a 719 as an investigation? So we're here to help you. Like I said, we're all in the same boat. So I gave you a lot of information. I hope you've got some time to think about it and digest it. And if there's any questions that you have, please forward them on. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Michelle. Can everybody hear me now? Am I good? Yay. All right. So hopefully I wasn't frozen on one of those hideous faces like when you pause a TV show. But so what I was trying to say as far as Sensible Nutrition goes is that I have attended the Sensible Nutrition classes. It is really great information. I do highly recommend that for all workers to attend those, because it makes it a whole lot easier to recommend their services to someone when you know exactly what it is that you're recommending. There was great information on budgeting your food dollars, cooking from scratch, you know, meal prep, all that good stuff. So I do recommend that. Also, as Michelle was speaking, I received a few messages from individuals who did not think that they had received the maps that she was talking about. Those PDF attachments were included in the same email that was sent to you yesterday with the link to the YouTube video and also the Google Slides. However, since they're PDF, they automatically attach at the bottom of the email, so you may just need to scroll down a little further to get those, and you will have them. All right, so now we're going to move on to Jeannie Roberts, and she's going to talk about the QC pull and review process. Thanks, Jeannie.
Hey, good morning, everyone. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Jeannie Roberts. I'm located in the Casper office, and I'm the Quality Control Manager. I also have a QC crew who are stationed around the state. I've got Laura Austin, who's in Casper, and she's my senior QC specialist. I also have Danielle Weiser, who is located here with me in Casper. I have Carrie Marshinsky, who is located in Camer, Arcelia Genome, who is located in Thermopolis, and Shelley Shear, who is located in Cheyenne. Those are my SNAP reviewers. I also have one for childcare, which is Yolanda Hernandez, and she is also located in Cheyenne. So every August, I am mandated to set up a sample plan for the SNAP cases. I have to follow instructions in the CFR, and there's a formula that is used to describe how I'm going to pull all the cases that we pull. Seriously, all the cases are random. I have no say on any case that is going to be pulled for anyone. And I've always said, if I had the choice, I wouldn't send my investigator to Jackson in the middle of winter, because it takes a long time to go up there for a person who may receive only $15. So really, it is just a random pull. The sample plan contains details of everything, such as our eligibility system that we're using, how we're going to figure out how many cases we pulled, which is based on Wyoming's SNAP population for the past year. So it's just an average. And so in fiscal year 17, QC pulled a total of 372 active SNAP cases and 215 negative SNAP cases for review. So FNS also pulls a random sample of those cases. So in 17, they reviewed 361 of our SNAP active cases and 97 negative. So they do review a whole bunch of our cases, and they can come back and cite errors on QC. So we're also in that same boat. If you guys get an error and FNS looks at any of our cases, they could also cite us with a federal difference. So with childcare, I also have to do a SNAP plan, but that's only done every 3 years, because we only conduct these cases for federal review every 3 years. And those also need to be approved by ACF. And Yolanda has to review 23 cases per month. No more, no little. So with the SNAP cases, QC are required to conduct personal interviews with all the active cases that we review. And I would like to ask that, and it would be so helpful if when you guys are interviewing your clients, if you could let them know that their case could be randomly pulled for a QC audit. It's nothing they have done wrong, and that's the first thing we always tell our clients. It's nothing you have done wrong, but it's our way to make sure that you're entitled to all the benefits you're receiving. And when we say that to the clients, it's usually, oh, we thought we did something wrong. Or the classic is, oh, we thought you were going to come and get our kids. Well, I don't want your kids, so you can keep them. We're just going to look at your SNAP case to make sure that you're getting enough food to feed those little kiddos that you do have. And also we would it would be very nice if you could tell us of any dangerous situations that are out there, because we are going in these persons' homes. So if you know that they're volatile or something like that, please let my reviewers know when they request the case. So how does QC review a SNAP case? Well, we're required to obtain all the actual circumstances for our review month, which is all income and all expenses. So if those amounts make the allotment difference over $37, then we do a look back period, or we look to see what the agency actually did at the point of certification. And that's when we correct the case for misapplication of policy, or if the client didn't tell us what they were doing truthfully, we will go ahead and correct those. Which can mean that we can cite an error at that point. And for childcare, it's a desk review only, so we're not required to interview anyone. But in childcare, there's no tolerance threshold, so any amount is an error, even if it's $1. So that's a high-level overview of what QC does. I mean, we love to go out and visit our clients. That's one of the funnest things of our job. And I know all you guys have seen my reviews in your offices. So, you know, just tell them hi whenever you see them. They love their jobs. So, I mean, that's our review in a nutshell. Any questions?
I haven't seen any come in yet. Thank you, Jeannie. All right. So moving right along. Yeah.
Hey, so this is Jackie, and I just wanted to follow up with Jeannie with something with QC. When QC requests a file from you, they need to be mailed in within 24 hours so that Jeannie and her staff can meet the deadlines that they have. So make sure that if QC pulls a file, you guys get it in the mail and out to them within 24 hours. And if there's an issue with getting that done, you need to email QC and copy your supervisor right away so that they can see what needs to happen. So if you guys can make sure you do that, please. Thank you.
Thanks, Jackie. Also, I forgot that with this beginning of this federal fiscal year, QC is unable to let the agency dispute any of our findings. Seriously, guys, we don't like that. It puts a ton of pressure on us. None of the states have liked this. We keep asking FNS to change this guideline for us, but we just can't quite get that fixed. Because I've always said it takes fresh eyes to look at a case, because I may see something, Laura may see something, but Andy may see it totally different, and God knows what Jackie's going to come up with. So we love to have that back for us. So just to let you guys know, really, we do everything we can, and right now we're at this point where if QC cites it, we're done. And it's nothing I have put in place. It's what FNS has told us we need to do.
All right. Well, thank you, Jeannie. We are going to jump right into the expedited SNAP benefit training. So grab your PowerPoint and let's get going. Go ahead and get this shared for you. Okay. So talking about expedited SNAP benefits, I broke this up into a few different sections. The first section will be talking about screening and scheduling a potentially expedite eligible SNAP applications. So we're really starting right at the beginning of when that application comes in. We have a lot of new workers around the state. There's also a lot of things here that, you know, we can all just use a refresher on from time to time. So why do we expedite SNAP benefits? Well, because applicants that fall within the expedited criteria can be the most vulnerable to hunger. And that's why we're here. That's why we do what we do, is to help to prevent that. Also, federal policy does require that applicants who are eligible for expedited benefits receive that assistance within 7 calendar days. So it puts us into a, we're fighting the clock on this to make sure we're meeting those time frames. And finally, it means that the expedite eligible applicant must have their loaded SNAP card in their possession and available for use on the 7th calendar day after applying. Because we here in Wyoming, we do not have SNAP cards in our offices. They have to come from another location to be mailed to the client. That means that our 7-day calendar time frame has to also include the mail time for those cards. So it's really, really imperative that we're catching these expedite eligible applications right when they're brought in. We're getting them scheduled. We're getting going on them, and we're leaving ourselves enough time to make sure that that SNAP card is in their hands with benefits on it, ready to go on the 7th day. So all of our applications must be screened for expedite. And I know that a lot of the offices, we all do things a little differently. Some of our maybe one worker offices, you're also covering the front desk. You're also accepting applications and doing things like that. Some offices, we have enough clerical staff that this is what they're doing. Bottom line is, it's all of our responsibility, honestly. So we all need to be keeping an eye out for this. We need to be making sure that this is happening consistently and that we're catching them. So the screening of applications does include applications which are received by fax, by mail, and dropped off. Again, all applications are considered complete as long as it has a name, an address. That address can be a street address. It can be a P.O. box mailing address. It can be in care of another family member's address if that's the only place that they're able to receive mail. And it can also be general delivery at the post office. So we do have options there. And then the application needs to have a signature. And remember, I think we put this in one of the most recent Hit the Marks, is that that signature can be anywhere on the application. And it's PI or the authorized representative. So it doesn't have to be signed by all of the adults in the household. We cannot require that that is happening. Any signature anywhere on the application. If that's the case, we consider it a complete application. We're going to go ahead and schedule that appointment for them. In order to determine expedite eligibility, we use the information on page 1 of the application. And also keep in mind that timely recertifications are not eligible for expedited benefits. When we're talking about timely recertifications, that is that the client has received benefits in the same month that their application is being brought in. So this is page 1 of the application. This is the section that we're using to determine if they're potentially expedite eligible. When we're looking at that, we are looking at their earned income, and that is the income that is received from in cash or in-kind wages, from salary, from tips, commissions, or self-employment. So the client is going to fill that in there. How much total earned income will your household receive this month before taxes? And they'll have that filled out there. Unearned income, that is all money that is received that is not earned by providing a good or a service. Generally, what we see with unearned income are things like Social Security, child support income, unemployment benefits, workers' compensation, could be retirement income, any of those things where it's not earned by providing that good or service. And then also we look at the liquid assets that they declare on this page. That can include cash on hand, money in checking or savings accounts, savings certificates, stocks, bonds, IRAs, or kiosk plans. Sorry, it's a little noisy outside my window. What that does not include, we're not looking at property, we're not looking at vehicles, we're talking about liquid assets only. Those are the things that can be quickly converted to cash. You can walk into the bank, you can pull cash out, you can reach into your pocket or your purse and you can pull that cash out. So that's what we're looking at when we're talking about earned income, unearned income, and liquid assets. What do we do if page 1 is not filled out? If the application has been received in person, we're not going to stand at the front desk and ask out loud questions about the income and the assets. That becomes a confidentiality issue. Instead, you just want to inform the client that in order to determine a time for the interview, you would need to have the section on expedites filled out. You can ask the client to check the appropriate boxes for questions 6 and 7. I'll flip back and we'll look at that in a sec. And also, as a benefit specialist, or ask a benefit specialist, we can look at the other pages of the application to determine expedite eligibility. Clerical staff, we don't want doing that. They're going off of what is declared on page 1. Since we are the benefit specialists, we have the ability to look at that and go a little further back and say, okay, this is what the earned income or the unearned income is, and use that. If our application has been received by mail, fax, dropped off, or turned in by someone other than the applicant or authorized representative, we're going to assume that the application is expedite eligible. We'll get them scheduled for an expedite appointment. And then if it's determined at the appointment, at the interview, that it's not expedite, then we just process it as a regular application. But we want to make sure that we are playing it safe. We're going to assume that they may be expedite eligible, and that way, if it turns out that they are, we're still meeting that 7-day time frame. All right. So question 6 and 7, I wanted to flip back to that. That is the question of utilities. Check all the utilities your household has received. And then, do you have a Wyoming Electronic Benefit Transfer or EBT card for SNAP? Those are important questions. And the EBT card, it's a very important question. That's going to help us to know if we need to, if it's someone who's been on benefits and they've lost their card, we have the option to go in and order a replacement card right away before the expedite interview actually takes place. That's going to help to get that card going through the mail and save us on that 7-day time frame. Okay. So after we receive the application, we want to make sure that the gray box on page 2 is filled out. We are seeing across the state recently that these are not being filled out. Like I said, I understand that a lot of times it might be clerical staff that is accepting the application, they're screening, they're doing the calculations, and they're scheduling. And so this isn't something that you as the worker go in and do very often. However, it is still something that we need to pay attention to. It is all of our responsibility to make sure that that's filled out. So we need to be looking at that application from front to back and making sure that it is complete in entirety all the way through. So please do double check to make sure that this box has been filled out. This is where the calculations happen to see if they are expedite eligible. It's also where we have some kind of checkpoints for ourselves. Was the screening completed? Yes or no? Is the household eligible for expedited service? Was the identity of the applicant verified? The worker's initial, the case number, date received, and then the appointment date and time. Is it a new SNAP application or POWER application? Is it a recert? And then staff initials. So we do need to make sure that those are being filled out. If we receive an application and it is a timely recertification, just write recertification right across this. And that way we know that we've covered that base, we're good to go. All right, so step 1 in that calculation is if the applicant has less than $150 of monthly income, that is the earned plus unearned income combined, and they have less than $100 in liquid assets, then the application should be treated as an expedite. So if those criteria are met, we're going to go ahead and expedite that application. Step 2 is that we'll add the rent or mortgage to the appropriate utility standard. At the current time, that is $386 for the standard utility allowance, which is heat or cooling, $262 for any 2 other utilities that are not used for heating and or cooling, or $53 for the phone. So we'll add all unearned and earned income together, and then if our expenses, the rent, mortgage, plus utility expenses are greater than the monthly income, the application should also be treated as an expedite. If the application does not meet any of those criteria, we're going to mark that the applicant was not expedite eligible and schedule that for a regular appointment. When we're looking at the appropriate standard utility allowance, this is that question number 6 on page 1. Keep in mind that the clients may qualify for only one of the following utility standards. If any of the heating, cooling, if they are responsible for heating, cooling, or they have received LEAP, so they've checked any of those boxes, then the client qualifies for the standard utility allowance of $386. If 2 or more of the other boxes are checked, not used for heating or cooling, the client would then qualify for the utility only allowance of $262. And if only the telephone box is checked, then the client would qualify for the telephone only allowance of $53. Those amounts, those standards do change every year. They're effective from October 1st through September 30th. So those are our current standards for those utility allowances. All right, so here's an example of going through that calculation. We're going to use the client provided information on page 1 of the application. So what they put in this box. So this particular client states that they are not a migrant or seasonal farm worker. They state that they have a total of $675 earned income before taxes and deductions. They state that they also have $250 in total unearned income. that they have $25 in liquid assets available to them. They have $600 in rent, lot rent or house payment. And for utilities, they've marked the electricity box, the telephone box, the sewer box, and the received LEAP box. So when we look at that, we're going to do, like I've talked about a few different times, is we're going to start with the highest paying utility deduction, see if they're eligible for that. If they're not, we'll move on down to the next one. If they're not, we'll move on down to the next one. So we're going to start with that standard utility allowance and ask ourselves, is this household eligible for that standard utility allowance? And they are, because they have marked that they received LEAP. So that's the standard that we'll be using in our calculation. This individual does not have a Wyoming EBT card at this time. So we need to make sure we're getting that card to them, benefits on there if they're eligible within that 7-day time frame. All right, so we're going to take that information that they put into that box, we're going to plug it into page 2. That's going to look something like this. Rent and mortgage is $600. The appropriate utility standard, that's the standard utility allowance because they marked that they received LEAP, $386. Their monthly gross income plus liquid assets. So we're adding together earned income, unearned income, and the $25 liquid assets. That totals $950. So because A plus B is greater than C, we've got 986 compared to 950. This household will be eligible for an expedite appointment. So then the person scheduling that, yes, they were screened for expedite. Yes, they're eligible for expedite. Yes, we have identity of the applicant verified, the screener's initials, the case number, and the date that that application was received. So this is what we need to be double checking to make sure that it has been done correctly on page 2 for every application that we have. All right, so a couple examples of rolling through those calculations. Example 1, we have a new application dated January 14th. Household consists of Susie and her 1-year-old child. Susie is not currently employed. She does have a checking account, and in it she has $100. Susie has no other income or liquid assets. When looking at that, since Susie has less than $150 monthly gross income, she has 0, and her liquid assets are $100 or less, she is eligible for expedited SNAP benefits. So we don't even have to move on to step 2 with this one. We're just looking at that income, step 1, eligible, get that scheduled. On a side note, I do want to let you know, and we have the combined manual training coming up, so I'll be talking about this during that as well. These examples, a lot of them, I pull them right from our combined manual. In each section of the combined manual, if you're looking at a specific topic, you can scroll on down to the bottom of the page. There's good stuff down there. And there are a lot of examples in there. Those examples come from questions across the state, the ones that we're seeing the most frequently. We put those examples down there. So if you have a question about a topic, go and see if there's an example in there that matches what you're looking at, and that can answer your question. So I just wanted to let you know that. All right, example 2. Application date is March 3rd. This is a new application. The household consists of Robert only, 1-person household. Robert is employed and states he earns $500 a month. He states he is paid semi-monthly and receives $250 each paycheck. Robert doesn't have any liquid resources at all. Robert's billed rent is $550. So since Robert's expenses exceed his monthly income in liquid assets, Robert would be eligible for expedited SNAP benefits. So he's paid semi-monthly. He receives $250 each time. That's a total of $500 a month. His billed rent is $550. That's more than that $500 income. So we're going to go ahead and make sure we get him scheduled and seen as an expedite. All right, example 3. Application date, April 2nd. This is a new application. Household consists of Sarah only. Sarah is unemployed and has no earned income. Sarah states that she receives $250 per month in Shoshone per capita income. Sarah doesn't have any liquid resources. Sarah's billed rent is $100. All right, we all know that Shoshone per capita income is exempted as income when we're actually doing the calculation for the allotment. But we can use it when we're screening for expedites. So since per capita income is countable when determining expedite eligibility, and her unearned income is more than her expenses, Sarah's not eligible for expedited SNAP benefits at this time. She has $250 unearned income, and her rent is only $100. So she's not passing step 1. And when we go to step 2, her expenses are less than her unearned income. So she's not passing step 2. We're going to go ahead and schedule her as a regular appointment. All right. Example 4. Application date March 27th, new application. Household consists of Brody and his 2 children. Brody's unemployed. He has no earned income. Brody states that he and his children receive $100 each per month in Arapahoe per capita income. Brody states that all 3 of their per capita payments are obligated to a loan and they do not receive this income. Brody doesn't have any liquid resources and does not have any expenses. So the caveat to the per capita being able to be used in the calculation when determining expedite eligibility is that if that per capita is being garnished for a loan, they're not receiving it, it's not passing their hands, we're not going to use it in that calculation. So keep that in mind when you're looking at those numbers. So since this household's per capita income is obligated to a loan and they do not receive it, we're not counting it when determining that expedite eligibility. Brody has less than $150 income after that and less than $100 in assets. Therefore, he is expedite eligible. All right, so moving on to office procedures. What do we do? Now we know that they're expedite. We're scheduling it as an expedite. What do we do with this application? So an interview must be scheduled with the benefit specialist at the time of the application. That interview may be conducted in person or over the phone. We can do phone interviews if that is something that's going to make it more convenient for our applicant to attend that interview. And it must be conducted the same day or the following day. The sooner we can get them in, the better. So we're meeting that 7-day time frame. That's our focus with this, is to make sure that we're getting that done. The interview cannot be waived or postponed. If future scheduling is an issue for the office or the client, try to complete the interview immediately. I know a lot of workers will have specific expedite slots on their calendar. So if someone brings in an application, they can come back at 3 o'clock today or tomorrow and be seen as an expedite. If that works for the client, fantastic. However, if they can't make it at that time and tomorrow's not working, let's try to say, hey, you're here right now. Let's see what we can do. Let's get you seen and get it done so that we're meeting that time frame. Whenever possible, verification of the ID of the primary applicant should be requested. We've talked about identification and the fact that we cannot require a specific form of identification for someone. There are a lot of options that we can use. So anything that reasonably establishes the identity of the applicant is acceptable. A copy should be made and attached to the application. I will also state something that we're seeing within the reviews lately is while anything really can be used, we can use pay stubs, we can use a library card, we can use a TPQI, we can use all kinds of stuff at our disposal to verify the identity of that person. What's being missed is that we're not documenting that in the narrative. So if you're using something besides a driver's license that's right under the, initial permanent verification tab, and actually we should just be narrating it all the time, make sure we're putting it in the narrative. Hey, identity for the PI was verified through pay stub or whatever item that you're using. So just make sure we're transferring that knowledge from our brain onto that narrative. All right, so moving on to section 2, processing expedited SNAP applications. All right, so we have our expedite timeline for SNAP. On day 1, the SNAP application's received. It is screened and determined that it's potentially an expedite, and then that appointment is made for an interview. That's all happening day 1. By day 2, that SNAP interview must have been completed with the benefit specialist. We've got to get that done to make that 7-day time frame. Final eligibility determination is made on that expedite application. We don't want to postpone this. We're getting it going right away, and then those benefits are issued. That allows that card, if it needs to be automatically ordered because maybe that client has not been in our system and has never had a card before. Once those benefits are issued, that's when that card's being ordered. So that's going to give us days 3 through 7 for mailing that card to the client. And by day 7, they have to have it in their hands with benefits loaded on it so that they can go and use it. All right. If we have applications that are filed on or before the 15th of the month, if that assistance unit has applied on or before the 15th of the month and verification is postponed. So we're going off of client statement with that first application, their income, their expenses, their assets, client statement. We're going to get those benefits issued on day 2 of that application time frame. But in order for them to have continued eligibility, we have to still verify items after their expedite period. So, then we're going to postpone things like pay stubs, employer statement, bank statement, anything that is required that is applicable to their situation. So we're going to certify that assistance unit for the month of application only because they've applied on or before the 15th. In order for them to have benefits the second month, they'll have to have those postponed verifications back into us. The notice that we send in this situation is the F001 Expedited SNAP Application Verification Waive Notice. That's going to explain to them which pending verifications must be provided and the fact that it has to be brought back in by the end of that expedite month. So by the end of the 1 month of expedite benefits, by the last day. If the application comes in after the 15th of the month, so from the 16th to the last day of that month, we're going to authorize expedite benefits based on client statement, the month of application, and the following month, both with immediate issuances. That client then has until the last day of that second month to bring in their postponed verifications for us to look at extending their certification period. In this situation, we're going to send the F101 Expedited SNAP Application Verification Waive Notice explaining which pending verifications must be provided. Also, please make sure that we're explaining this to the client during the interview. We don't want the notices to be the first time that they're hearing that they have to bring items back by a specific date. So we want to make sure that we're educating our clients several times throughout the process, in the interview, verbally, and also in writing. There is no limit to the number of times that an assistance unit can be certified under expedited procedures. It's not like, 20 times in a lifetime. As long as prior to each expedited certification, that assistance unit has either provided the verification requirements that were postponed at the last expedited certification, or they have been certified under normal processing standards since that last expedited certification period. So if they bring in their postponed verification from the previous expedite, and they're now eligible for expedite again based on the information on page 1, we can go ahead and get them scheduled for expedite and process it as such. All right, for those subsequent benefit months, if the requested postponed verification is provided prior to the expedite certification period expiring, the certification period shall be lengthened to the maximum allowed time based upon the circumstances of that assistance unit. So we can extend it to 4 months or 6 months, just depending on what their circumstances and where they fall into that. If the requested postponed verification is not provided prior to the certification period expiring, the assistance unit must reapply and provide the postponed verifications prior to the authorization of their benefits. All right. Let's say their expedite certification period ends April 30th. They don't bring in their postponed verifications until May 1st. They're still going to need to reapply. So that's just something that I see coming in because it's so close. If people start to question it a little bit, we'll need them to reapply at that point. All right. Also, a reminder with the postponed verifications, and I've seen this happen a lot, is that if verification of optional deductions is initially postponed, so they state that they have a gas bill, and so we postpone their submission of the gas bill. If the client does not submit that gas bill, if that's the only thing that we were waiting on for them, we're simply going to remove that deduction from their case. It's optional. So we're simply going to remove that deduction, and then we can extend their benefits for the maximum certification period for them. If an optional deduction didn't come back along with something required, like a bank statement or income verification, at that point, then they're going to have to come in and reapply. We can't extend that because those are required verifications. If optional is the only thing we were waiting on, we're just going to remove that deduction for them. All right, so a couple examples on this. Example 1, household does not have income at the time of application, but anticipates receipt of income. The household is uncertain as to the amount of income or when it will be received. The worker should expedite that case and certify the household based on 0 income. Verification of the income should be requested. If verification of the income is not received, no further benefits would be issued. Okay. Example 2. Example 2, if the household is not eligible for SNAP benefits for the month of application, but is eligible for SNAP benefits and qualifies for expedited service for the following month, the household must be provided an opportunity to participate within 7 days from the date of application or the first working day of the second month, whichever is later. So, and I think that this is a little confusing for a lot of people. I know it was for me. The whole not eligible for expedited benefits first month, but eligible for expedite the second month. So this is that situation if you're ever questioning that. If a household is eligible for SNAP benefits, but they're not entitled to expedited services in the month it applies, but they have very little income in the following month, the household must be certified under normal procedures within 30 days from the date of initial application. The household cannot be expedited for the second month. So they would need to qualify for expedited service for the following month, and then we can go ahead and look at that second month. This is one example of a situation where that might happen. A woman moved from Kansas to Wyoming. She applied at the local office after the 16th of the month, and upon screening, she met the entitlement criteria for expedited services. However, at the interview, it was determined that she had already participated that month at her former address in Kansas. Therefore, she's ineligible for benefits here in the month of application. So the month of application would be denied because it's of previous participation. However, the second month, because this person is meeting that expedite criteria as far as income and assets and expenses goes, the following month would be approved for expedited service. All right, example 4. Client appears to be entitled to expedite services and is scheduled with an interview the next day. The next day, the client calls and asks for the interview to be rescheduled, or they miss the interview. The client reschedules that interview. We're going to send the NOMI after that first missed interview, even if the client rescheduled. We want to get that NOMI sent out there. That's our proof that we have provided them an opportunity to participate in expedited services and that we met our timeframes. The client should then be scheduled with a second interview, allowing time for benefits to still be issued within 7 days. So we're still going to schedule them in. We're still going to meet that 7-day time frame because they're expedite eligible. We're just making sure that we're sending that NOMI. That's our proof that we offered them an appointment same day or the following day to make sure we're meeting our responsibilities. All right. Section 3 are some frequently asked questions. Like I said, a lot of these come from our combined manual, so definitely utilize that. All right, first question. If the household does not participate in an interview, client caused within 7 days of the application date, so they're not coming in until the 8th day or later, is the household entitled to expedited service by the 7th day following the date that the household complies? The answer is no. The household is no longer entitled to expedited service. We've offered them the opportunity to participate within 7 days. We have met our obligation there. This is client cause that they're not coming in until after the fact, that they've missed that window of opportunity. All right, next question. The household files an application and worker screens for expedited service. The worker incorrectly decides that the household is not entitled to expedited service. The worker schedules an interview for the 7th day after the date of application. At the interview, the worker discovers the mistake and correctly decides that the household is entitled to expedited service. Must benefits be issued within the 7 days from the date of application? The answer is that benefits must be issued by that 7th calendar day after the date the worker discovered that the client was entitled for expedited service. So it's not 7 days from the application at that point, but it's like that expedite clock starts right over the minute we discover that they're actually expedite eligible. So we're going to start working on it. We're going to meet that 7-day time frame from that point forward. Next question. The household files an application and is correctly screened as not entitled to expedite service. The interview then occurs more than 7 calendar days after the household originally applied. The worker discovers that the household circumstances have now changed and that the household is now entitled to expedite service. So they weren't when the application was submitted, but they are now. Even though the household was not eligible for expedited issuance at the time of application, the regulations require that benefits be issued within 7 days from the date that information on the change in circumstances was provided. Is that correct? That was a question that came through. The answer to that is no. Federal regulation only requires that the state agency determine entitlement to expedited service based on the information the client provided at the time the client requests assistance. In this situation, that client was not eligible for expedited service at the time of application. So even though their circumstances have changed, that's the information we are working on. So they would not be eligible for expedited services. Next question. Use that same scenario, except that the household reports the change of circumstances within 7 days of filing that application. So that right there is what we're looking at. The household files an application and is correctly determined to not be expedite at the time of application. However, they report that change within 7 calendar days of applying. Because of the change, the household is now entitled to expedite service. Is the worker required to provide expedited service by the 7th calendar day after the date of application? So this is just a little different in that the change in circumstances happened within 7 days instead of after 7 days. The answer is still no. The regulations only require that the worker determine that entitlement to expedited service based on information the client provided at the time the client requests assistance. So we're looking at that application information. All right, next one. The household has $500 in their bank account and $0 income. The $500 is from per capita. Are they eligible for expedited services? We're going to consider the $500 as liquid resource on hand and 0 income. The household would not be eligible for expedited benefits due to having over $100 in liquid resources accessible to them. However, when actual eligibility determination is done, the per capita monies would be exempt for SNAP purposes. Client has $3,500 in bank, but just recently got a $6,000 tax refund and $0 income. Are they eligible for expedited services? The answer to that one is the household would not be eligible for expedited services as their liquid resources are over $100, which is required to be eligible for expedited services. All right. I'm gonna stop sharing this. Let's see what we have here. Okay, so I did get a few questions that come in, but I am going to look at those. We'll look at those at the end just to make sure we're moving along and we get everything done that we need to do. All right, so that is expedites. If you have any more questions on top of the ones that I did receive, send them to me. I will get them answered. And I'll probably just, what I'll do is I'll get them all answered after we're done, and we'll send out an email to the field with the questions and answers that came in. That way you have them that way. I just think that'll work a little better. So, all right, moving on to notices. Let's go ahead and grab that PowerPoint. Okay, so notices are extremely important for us, and it's something that we have been seeing a few errors and potential errors come through based on having not clear or understandable notices. So we wanted to go over this and kind of talk about what we really need to be seeing in the notices to make sure that that's not happening. Also to make sure that our clients understand what it is that is being asked of them, what their requirements are that they need to fulfill in order to receive SNAP benefits, and all that good stuff. So the importance of clear and understandable notices. First off, it's that client communication piece. Clients must be informed of any actions that they need to take in order for their program eligibility to be determined. So we need to be very forthcoming and with them about what it is that they need to do and bring back to us. Because then that ball is in their court and they're able to do what needs to be done. So, all right. Also, error prevention. A notice that is not clear and understandable will cause the case to be cited for an error. So we need to be watching these very carefully. And efficiency. A notice that is not clear and understandable can lead to increased phone calls and time loss, which is something that none of us want to have to deal with. We want to be able to get things done as quickly and efficiently as possible, and that's a hindrance to us. Clear and understandable notices will reduce the effort of repending a case when the client misunderstands what was being requested. So we want to make sure that we're getting submitted to us what it is that we're actually asking for the first time. All right, so notice content. What must be included in all notices? The action or intended action to be taken must be included. The amount of benefit to be issued. The date the action will occur. The reason and specific regulations that support the action, and also a description of the actions, if any, that the assistance unit must take to avoid an adverse action or to reactivate their application for SNAP benefits. A statement of the person's rights to request an informal conference or an administrative hearing. Also, the explanation of the recipient's obligations and responsibility to report to the DFS field office, the simplified reporting changes, the beginning and end dates of a certification period. The notification of approval of an application shall include the following. We want to make sure that it has variations in benefit levels within the certification period and an explanation of the difference in initial month's benefits and subsequent benefits when that's appropriate. A lot of those items are permanently input into our notices, the regulations, the right to request an informal conference, that kind of stuff. So something that we need to pay attention to as workers are our notice timeframe requirements for the SNAP program. And these are specific to the SNAP program. Power has their own time limit requirements. So we want to make sure that we're mailing the assistance unit a notification of approval, denial, or pending of the application within 30 days of the date of application. That's our 30-day time frame that we have to act on that application. We're not going to deny prior to the 30th day when that application is being denied for missed interview. So we'll send that notice of missed interview. We're going to wait it out, and then it will auto close and auto deny on the 30th day as long as there hasn't been any other action taken within that case in EPICS. So we're not going to just send the NOMI and then send that denial. We're going to wait the 30 days because they have 30 days to come in and participate in an interview, and that application is good. Also, we're going to send the notice the next working day if the 30th day falls on a weekend or holiday, and do not require a new application if the assistance unit takes the required action within 30 days from the date of notification or 60 days from the date of application. So those applications can be used from 30 to 60 days. Mail the assistance unit a pending notice to request missing verifications or information. We must give the client 10 days to provide the requested verification and or information to us. The 10-day count begins on the mailing date. So that is the day following our notice authorization or the day following when we request that notice to be sent in EPICS. Notice timeframes for adverse action is to generate an appropriate adverse action notice with a mailing date at least 10 days prior to the effective date of the action. With adverse action, that 10th day cannot expire on a weekend or holiday. Notices are mailed the day following that authorization or order date. If the notice authorization date is on a Friday, the mailing date would be on the following Monday, excluding a holiday. And then our notice timeframes for adequate notice. Mail the assistance unit an adequate notice instead of a timely notice of adverse action when one of the following conditions exists. If the assistance unit reports in a written and signed statement the information which results in the reduction or termination of benefits. So it has to be in a written and signed statement. They understand they're not going to receive that 10 days, and then we can go ahead and just give them adequate notice. If the eligibility or benefit level can be determined based solely on the assistance unit's written information, or if an assistance unit member is being disqualified for an IPV, we're going to include in that the name of the disqualified person and the benefit level of the remaining assistance unit members. So those are situations where we could just do adequate notice instead of timely notice, but we do need to make sure that that is in a written and signed statement from them. All right. And then our notice timeframes for a disqualification for any reason other than an IPV. And these are things that we don't see very often, but you need to know where to find the information if the situation should arise. Mail the assistance unit a 10-day notice of adverse action prior to disqualifying a member for a reason other than an IPV, and include in that notice the name of the member who is being disqualified, the reason for the disqualification, the eligibility and benefit level of the remaining assistance unit members, and the actions that the assistance unit must make to end that disqualification. Notice timeframes for timely recertification. We're going to mail the assistance unit a notification of approval or denial by the end of the certification period when the assistance unit has reapplied by the 15th of the last month of the current certification period. So this is that timely recertification timeframe that we talk about. If they come in and they turn in their recertification application by the 15th of the month, we need to make sure that we are they're being seen by our timely recertification deadline, and that we are getting benefits processed and noticed out by the end of that certification period. All right, so we do have some examples on the 10-day pen notice here, and I included a calendar on this. So we're looking at December dates. So if we are requesting their pen notice, so we're going into Epics and we're ordering that pen notice on December 3rd, it's not going to be mailed out to them until December 4th. So December 4th becomes our day 1. So that's where we start counting to get to the 10 days for when they have to have everything turned back in. So if December 4th is our day 1, we're going to start 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Their verifications are going to be due back by December 13th. If we're requesting it on December 12th, our mail date is December 13th. That's our day 1. We're going to start there. We're going to count 10 days out. That's going to land on December 23rd, which is a Sunday. Can we have verifications due back on a weekend? We can. So we can do December 23rd as the date due back for them. If we request that on the 14th, which is a Friday, our mail date is not going to be until Monday, December 17th. So Monday, December 17th becomes our day 1. And that means that everything will end up due back by December 26th. Okay. Our 10-day adverse action notice examples, when we're looking at counting out, or do we have enough time for a timely notice to close benefits out? I've got a couple months of calendars here because I wanted to get lots of examples for holidays and weekends and that good stuff. So first example is we're requesting it on May 16th. Our mail date is going to be May 17th. That's day 1. We're going to start counting out the 10 days. Are we giving them 10 days? So we're going to count that out. That lands us on May 26th, which is a weekend. It can't end on a weekend or a holiday, so it'd actually be the 28th, but that's okay because it's still within May, so we can actually close this case out or reduce benefits. We can have that adverse action done effective May 31st. If we request it on May 22nd, May 23rd is our day one. Our 10 days goes out to June 1st. So if we're doing an adverse action on this case, that adverse action cannot take place until June 30th because we don't have timely notice to change their benefit for June 1st. It actually won't change that benefit until July 1st. All right, so if we're requesting the adverse action notice on June 15th, that is a Friday. Our day one, because it's not going to be mailed out until Monday, is June 18th. We start counting 10 days out from there. That gets us to June 27th. We have enough notice to go ahead and make that change effective June 30th. All right. And then if we have one, we're ordering it on June 20th. June 21st is our day one. We're counting out 10 days from there. 1, 2, 3. It's going to take us to June 30th. That's a weekend. 10-day adverse action notices cannot end on a weekend or a holiday, which means we're not going to be able to take that adverse action until July 31st, and their benefits to be changing or terminated effective August 1st. So those are some examples of counting out that 10-day adverse action notice and the fact that those cannot end on a weekend or a holiday, which sometimes puts us out an extra month before that action can actually take place. All right. So section 3 of this one is some notice examples and how we can make sure that we're keeping our notices clear and understandable for the clients so that they know what they need to do so that we're not receiving errors based on not clear or understandable information. All right, so I have on this one, I've got the top section is an example of one pen notice requesting specific information, and then the bottom section is another pen notice requesting the same information in a different way. So we're going to look at both ways. The first way is requested information or proof, employer statement from McDonald's, bank statement from US Bank, child support verification. So just real easy peasy small pieces. Requesting that in a different way, we're requesting a DFS 106 employer statement completed by McDonald's verifying Jonathan's new employment and expected wages. Current checking account statement from US Bank for Amber's account, and a child support income history from the state of Texas. So this gives it's clear, it's understandable. They know who is working at McDonald's that needs to turn that verification in. They know whose bank account needs to be submitted to us and where that's coming in. So off to the side, we have a better notice breakdown and it just bullet points some of the things why this is more clear and understandable for the client and also for us. So we're asking for the specific form, the DFS 106 employer statement completed by McDonald's. You could say completed by McDonald's for Jonathan's new employment. I know that I tend to be a little wordy. We don't always have that much space in our pen notices, so sometimes we have to kind of wordsmith, but we want to make sure we're still asking for the specific information and that it's clear to our clients exactly what is required for them to bring in. The risk with just saying employer statement from McDonald's is you might get a handwritten statement that says Jonathan started at McDonald's on June 1st to the end. Well, that's an employer statement. I mean, it's a statement from the employer, but it doesn't give us everything that we need. So then we're having to follow up on that, maybe request another form, you know, all those things that leads to a lack of efficiency for us as well. So, so specific form, name of the person that's employed, specifies new or terminated employment. Specific type of bank account. Is it checking? Is it savings? You want to make sure you're getting the right one. Also the name of the bank and the name of the assistance unit member or account holder. Specifies child support income or expense And then list the state that the child support history is being requested from. Okay. Next one is a Penn notice requesting verification of income and optional gas bill. So we see that come through. The alternate notice for that would be John's most current 2 pay stubs from Home Depot, as well as a copy of your gas bill for deduction purposes only. Verification of income, that could be anything. You're likely not going to get what it is that you're asking for. So we want to be specific, his most current 2 pay stubs, or the DFS 106 employer statement, what it is exactly that we're asking for. And then we want to make sure with this gas bill, this does say optional gas bill, but you know, gas bill for deduction purposes only, that's the language that we're really looking for in these Penn notices that we want to see consistent across the state. So the better notice breakdown on these, we're naming the assistance unit member with that employment. It's John. It's not somebody else who lives there. We're specifying exactly what we want from John. We want his most current 2 pay stubs. We're specifying the employer name, and we're including that language for deduction purposes only with the gas bill. Our next one, requested information or proof, would be incapacity statement or work registration. So we know what an incapacity statement is. We know what work registration is. We need to be very careful that we're explaining things to clients in ways that they'll understand what it is that's being asked of them. So the alternate for that would be the DFS 110 statement of incapacity form completed by your physician, which verifies your inability to work, or you must complete a DFS 301 work registration form with the Department of Workforce Services. Again, I know I tend to be wordy. That's the information that we're looking for. We're letting them know the specific form that needs to be completed, the specific requested information on that form, and then what their specific alternate action may be. So they have their 2 options. All right, so some denial notices. When I put these screens together, what I did is I put the requested information or proof. So we have our Penn notice above the line, and then we have the denial notice on that case below the line so that we can take a look to see what was asked for and what's being denied for. So in this case, we asked for a DFS 110 statement of incapacity form completed by your physician, which verifies your inability to work, or you must complete a DFS 301 work registration form with the Department of Workforce Services. This household did not bring back the DFS 110 or the DFS 301. They didn't do either one of those. So we're going to make sure that we put that in the denial notice that's matching the Penn notice. So we're using the same language. DFS 110 statement of incapacity form completed by your physician, which verifies your inability to work, or the DFS 301 work registration form with the Department of Workforce Services. So neither of those came back. So we're just making sure that that language in the denial notice matches what was requested in the Penn notice. That's going to make sure we don't have any confusion of, hey, why am I being denied for this when I was asked for something that seems different to me? Next denial notice, we requested in the Penn notice John's most current 2 pay stubs from Home Depot, as well as a copy of your gas bill for deduction purposes only. They failed to provide, we'll say they failed to provide all of it. But what we notice in that Penn notice is that the gas bill is for deduction purposes only. That's optional. They didn't have to bring that back for us to determine eligibility. So the only pieces that we're going to include in that denial notice are the pieces that are required for eligibility determination. And in this case, that's John's most current 2 pay stubs from Home Depot. So that's what we're putting in that denial notice. John's most current 2 pay stubs from Home Depot. When we look at that better notice breakdown, the language in the denial notice is matching exactly what was requested. We're denying for those pay stubs. We're saying the same stuff about those pay stubs in the denial notice as we did in the Penn notice. Also, we're only listing the required items for determining eligibility. Down in this little note, we cannot use all requested items in this situation, even if though the client didn't turn anything in from the Penn notice. The reason for that is that part of what was requested was optional. We cannot include that optional information in the denial notice. So this is a situation where we can't look at this and go, hey, they didn't bring anything back, so we're just going to put all requested items in that notice. We have to pay attention to detail there. We have to know that part of what was requested was optional. That cannot be included in the denial notice. So this is a situation where this does not work. If we did use all requested items in our denial notice, that's going to end up being an error because we're denying them for stuff they didn't have to bring into us. Okay. Next one, we requested John's most current 2 pay stubs from Home Depot. Your most current bank statement from U.S. Bank checking account ending in 7240. So that's just another way to be specific about that checking account. If we know what the last 4 digits are, we can use that instead of the person's name, but we have to make sure we're being specific. And Cindy must complete all requirements listed on the DFS 301 work registration form with the Department of Workforce Services, then return the completed form to our office. This household, again, did not bring anything back to us at all. So we're going to look at that and we're going to ask ourselves first, was everything requested in the pen notice required for eligibility determination? Pay stubs? Yes, they are. Bank statement? Yes, it is. 301 work registration form? It is for Cindy. So in this case, we can use all requested items in our denial notice. They didn't turn anything in. All of the items that were requested are required. So we can use all requested items in this denial notice because everything was required. I do want to make a note on this because it came up with the reviews here recently, is that some workers are using the phrase all requested items. Some workers are using the phrase all required items. So we don't want to use all required items. The reasoning behind that is we as workers, we know what is required and what's optional. Our clients don't know that. They don't know our policy. They don't have our combined manual. They haven't been trained in this. So when they fail to provide all requested items, we want to use the word requested, not required, in that denial notice. So make sure that we are using the correct language there. Okay. So that is our notices presentation. If you have questions on that, send me an email, give me a call. I'm here. I'm going to put together the questions and answers in an email and send it out to everybody so that we all have those. If anything comes up that maybe wasn't covered in this, if it's a situation you've come across frequently or recently that you want to know how to handle that, send that to me as well. We'll get that answered for you. So as promised, we had a full schedule today. It is now 11:45, and I'm going to go ahead and let you all get back to work. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you soon. Have a good day.